My name is Phoebe Okowa, and I am a reader in public international law at Queen Mary University of London. In the archaic English system of academic classification, it essentially means an associate professor. And as I said, I teach public international law.
I looked at your CV. I mean, you have had only two employers, University of Bristol, and also Queen Mary, University of London. Isn't your background really too narrow in terms of experience? I mean, a professor of public international law, fair enough. Nobody has a problem with that. Very distinguished. But isn't your background too narrow for a common man's office like the Deputy Chief Justice? I mean, two employers, 23 years of jobs. You have worked only at the university. Isn't that too narrow to even when you're interpreting an issue of law? Don't you lack the experience, that wide background experience to contextualize the law within the context of a given society, having worked only in academia for two universities?
Well, actually, that's more than most academics work for. Most academics work for an institution and retire there. In the majority of cases, about 70 or 80%. So 2 is not that unusual, and those of our colleagues who are academics will testify to that. But also, in addition to that, I have spent considerable periods teaching in other universities as a visiting professor. I see that as a very valuable experience that I will bring on the court. It's a valuable comparative experience. I have worked in the United States, in France, and in Scandinavia, all institutions with a robust commitment to the rule of law and transparency. So I don't think my experience is that unusual or that narrow for an academic.
By virtue of having lived out of Kenya for this long, you are not in touch with the Kenyan public in communities and so forth. And of course, the Constitution says the Kenyan people are sovereign. If you were to be given this job, what will you do in your first months in the job to make up for this deficiency?
Well, although I've lived away from Kenya for a very long time, I have always come here and I've been back. My mother lives here, my family are all here to support me today. And I don't see myself, being Kenyan is inescapably part of who I am. I read the Daily Nation every day, probably before most of you do because of time differences. I read it online around midnight. I am very much in tune with what's going on. Kenya's problems are part of my problem. And at the time of the 2000 election, I was here with my family. We were staying in Naivasha. We have a family home in Naivasha. So yes, I live away, but I am Kenyan. And I'm not just exotically coming here to apply for this job. I see it very much as inescapably part of who I am. Of course, I will do some consultation. I will talk. I will walk around. But they're not that foreign to me. I am very much in tune on a day-to-day basis with what's going on, with the problems, the context. So I haven't just gone away and forgotten about it, and it's not that strange to me in the way that it may come out, given that I've lived away for 24 years.
That's why you can try to convince us intellectually that because you are Kenyan, because you come here and stay in Naivasha for 2 weeks, you are not in touch with the Wanjiku, as it were. You come here with your family, you go to an exotic hotel in Naivasha.
Actually, I don't go to a hotel, it's a home, it's a house.
Yes, but it's not among, it's not like a village in Nyanza.
I should add it's a village in Kenya.
What I wanted to hear from you is what will you do to really say, now I'm getting engaged with the Kenyan public? That's what I wanted you to tell us.
I think, quite frankly, if I were appointed, the first thing I would do is meet all the people who work in the court system and try and understand their problems, and not just in relation to the courts within Nairobi. I hope opportunity will be made for me to really have a holistic picture of what the judiciary is and what its problems are. And so I will have courtesy calls on just about everyone who has some impact, court users and stakeholders in relation to this. And clearly, I would also like to have open sessions where I hope I will meet the members of the public, because quite frankly, the Constitution states quite clearly that the judiciary is to deliver service to the people of Kenya.